Kristel Porter is the Executive Director of Minnesota Renewable Now, and she has an amazing presentation to share. In fact, the person I just talked to in Colorado, we started talking about what you're doing, Kristel. So this is going to go nationwide, and she's going to be sharing her presentation called "Building Equity Through Renewable Energy," which is so true for the program she's working. So welcome, and take it from here.
All right, thank you very much. So yeah, again, my name is Kristel Porter, and it's kind of crazy how all of this started. So a little background about myself. A lot of people wonder, like, how did I get into environmental issues and why I'm so passionate about the issue? And it really doesn't make any sense, to be honest. Actually was born into a Republican family, and they are still very much so Republican. They truly don't care about a lot of the issues that I care about, so it makes the holidays very difficult to be around them. But one of the things that I do appreciate was my mother's love for growing food. She was a farmer. My grandfather owns over 600 acres of land in southern Illinois. And so wherever we lived, my mom would always have a garden. And so when I was young, I learned how to grow food from a very young age. And so I definitely learned to respect the environment and respect, living things. And so because of that, I was a very adventurous child. And so I would spend a lot of time as a kid going out into the woods. My mom actually said, "You were a little too independent." She said, "I never knew where you were. I'd be on my bike and I'd be riding all the way to a city next to the city we lived in. They would find me in Coon Rapids or Anoka on my bike at 8. And a lot of the times I was really just spending time in nature. I'd be in the woods, and I just had this deep love and respect for all living things. And so out of that, I started to be very, because of that, I chose different movies and different shows that would go along with my passion. And so I watched Captain Planet, and my favorite movie was Fern Gully. I watched it over and over and over again. And a lot of those movies would really shed light to a lot of the issues that people are finally waking up to notice today, that are issues that we should have probably been focusing on a long time ago. And I'm happy that people are starting to wake up. So before I started MN Renewable Now, I actually was the executive director of a neighborhood association in North Minneapolis. It's called Cleveland Neighborhood Association. And I spent a lot of time applying for grants that are around environmental issues. I was actually sitting there doing a final report on the Clean City Youth Program when I noticed I was having such a wonderful time writing this final report. I was like really enjoying writing this final, and I don't know how many people enjoy writing a final report on a grant. I don't think anybody does. But it made me go, you know what? This is the work that I love to do, and this is the work that I'm very passionate about. And it keeps me up at night, and in a good way. And instead of me spending time in a place-based organization focusing on all of the different issues, I needed to really start to zero in on what my passion really was. I went to Augsburg College, and the theme of that school was, what is your vocation and what is your calling? And my vocation and my calling was definitely around climate change and environmental issues. I went to school for political science and a minor in chemistry. I was very passionate about the hydrogen fuel cell and its way to combat climate change and the energy issue when it came to large transportation vehicles. And so And then I also noticed that every single paper I wrote, whether it was internet law, I found a way to talk to weasel environmental issues in. So I was like, you know, I need to just stop playing around, and I need to buckle down, and I need to do this work 100%. I need to really just put my all into this work. And so I started at my kitchen table one morning, a cup of coffee, and I went and started to file the paperwork, organize a board, typed bylaws, put a website and Facebook together, and I had all of that together within 24 hours. And within 3 months, I had applied for a grant through the Minneapolis Foundation for the PowerNorth program, and we partnered with Center for Energy Environment for that one. And we received our first $25,000 grant in 3 months of us organizing as a nonprofit. What we were able to do with the PowerNorth program was, I don't realize how surreal and amazing it was when we were doing it until afterwards, when I started to put the numbers together. When I reported back and said that we got over 88 households to transfer from coal to renewable energy in North Minneapolis, people's jaws dropped. And then in that following, that was in October of 2019. And then in March, February of 2020, this year, March I have ingrained in my brain because that's when everything went crazy in the world. But in February, we were able to get over 55 households to sign up for energy efficiency audits and installations. And the majority of these households were rental properties. We were able to walk into apartment buildings above Broadway Liquor Outlet, the Hawthorne Eco Village, the apartment buildings that Devin George built on Golden Valley Road and Penn Avenue. We were able to sit in their living rooms. They welcomed us in because our entire engagement team, which took me quite a while to put together, but it was worth the work because every person on my engagement team, it lives in the 55411 zip code, but they're also people of color, and they are also people that are known by the community. Even down to the person standing on the corner with the cardboard sign knows our engagement team. We are very, very out there in the community. We've worked for neighborhood associations or any other engagement, any other nonprofit that's focused on engagement. And it's just, I'm very, very proud of my team. We're all Black and Indigenous women. And what was really great is when we would knock on these doors, the majority of the time, the people just knew us when they opened the door. They were like, oh, hey, Kristel, or oh, hey, Sylvia, or Rocky, you know, they knew us and they would come on in, you know. And so here we are sitting on the living room floor playing with their kids and talking about renewable energy. And within minutes, not even, sometimes it would literally take 30 seconds. They'd be like, sure, whatever you say, let's do it, you know. And so I really pride myself in that piece because it is really, really important on who the messenger is, especially in North Minneapolis. So that was one of our major projects that we were able to work on. And we also are doing year 2 of PowerNorth, which is kicking off next month. We plan to double those numbers. And a lot of the renewable energy choices that people had in the first round wasn't really much, because at the time when we were switching people over to renewable energy, there was no community solar gardens that were open at the time. Actually, Ramp A had just opened up like that week, and people were already on a list. And so what we were able to do is connect them with community solar gardens that were in the works and coming out. And then we were able to get them all to sign up, switch over to WindSource. And what was really cool, because we took their information, when Greenway Solar came out with their community solar garden that only you had to be on some sort of government assistance in order to qualify for it. We were able to just, you know, sign them up right away and get them hooked up to those community solar gardens. So that was an awesome thing to be able to do. I believe we got about 37 households in North Minneapolis, and a good chunk of them were rentals that were able to subscribe to a community solar garden, which was really cool. And the rest were wind source. They switched over to wind source. So and now I'm hoping that more community solar gardens are coming out that are more, you know, supportive of not asking for credit checks and money down, and really keeping that in mind, especially since we don't have to give that information in order to hook up our Xcel Energy bill when we move into a house. So now the reason why, now when I talk about North Minneapolis, I'm going to just pull up a slide. I think I can present here. Second. I'm a little older than I look, so just bear with me here. I don't think I can share my screen, but I can at least go through my slides and just explain them. So MN Renewable Now are
Kristel, why don't you try it? Why don't you try it again? I just changed a setting for you.
Okay, cool. Let me try. Screen. Okay. Cool. Here we go. And don't judge me. I've got a million windows open. That's just me. That's how I roll.
It'll be familiar to some of us.
I just got to figure out how I present here. Okay, here it's on the top right. Okay, so our mission is so funny because we've only like officially been in existence for a little over a year, and our mission has changed twice, and it's going to be constantly evolving as time goes by. But MN Renewable Now focuses on the urgency to familiarize and educate Minnesota's community about renewable energies while establishing relationships and building bridges between citizens, public resources, and private energy sectors in order to preserve the planet for generations. So that's our mission. So why renewable energy? Well, of course, you know, electricity and heat production is obviously the largest contribution to climate change. And I'm sure everyone that's on this call can understand that we all know that burning coal and natural gas are some of the most detrimental impacts on our climate. And it's crazy when you think about coal and you're like, well, coal, what's the point of coal? I mean, they burn coal to heat up water, to turn turbines to create electricity. And when you think about a turbine, I always think of just, well, why not just using the wind turbines in the air? And what about hydropower? You know, and it's kind of, I don't know at what point why we ended up in this situation when we know that hydropower and wind power works, but you know, that's leadership. So in the meantime, we've decided as MN Renewable Now, we're trying to push things on a public level and a government level, but the reality is it's moving very, very slow. In order for us to see the change that we want to see, we find ourselves at the Capitol, we find ourselves writing letters, we find ourselves in these meetings and trying to push our legislators. And we're lucky living in Minneapolis, and I don't know who all is on the call, where other places that you live. We live in Minneapolis, and we have very very forward-thinking legislators when it comes to renewable energy and green policy. But the problem is they're alone, and in order to make change on a state level, it's nearly impossible. And so since we've had this year of being able to, roll back all of the events that we had planned, we had actually planned to throw a renewable energy fair and conservation fair in North Minneapolis. We planned to throw a conference for youth leadership. And since we weren't able to throw these things, we were like, well, what can we do? What can we do big scale? What can we really pull off that's actually going to make a big difference? And so we got to thinking about how our community could benefit off of renewable energy and how we could support that. So North Minneapolis has one of the highest population of Black in the entire state of Minnesota. It is the most dense Black African-American populated neighborhood in the entire state of Minnesota. We also have the lowest area median income in Minneapolis. And then we also have the highest hospitalizations related to any breathing illnesses. When you look at North Minneapolis, if you took an aerial photo of North Minneapolis and you look down, you would see, if you could shade the neighborhoods that are the blackest neighborhoods, you could shade them in like shade of blue, right? The darker the blue, the more Black, right? You would see that they are conveniently situated near the most toxic manufacturing plants. We have two actually roof shingle plants that are positioned in North Minneapolis. I don't know if you've ever been by a roof shingle plant before, but it's not fun. Whenever I drive by it, me and my son, literally in the car with the windows shut, on our way over to Northeast Minneapolis, we have to cover our faces inside the car in order to be able to withstand the smell of it. And roof shingles are complete poison. We also are the home of the HERC, which is the Hennepin County incinerator, where all the trash from Hennepin County goes. Every single trash can that you see in every park of the Minneapolis parks and recs goes there. All the trash goes right there, and gets burned. And the wind actually blows over North Minneapolis, and we get to breathe that in every day. So we also, because we're the lowest AMI in Minneapolis, a lot of us don't own homes. We have the highest rental population in Minneapolis as well. We have a very, very high rent, except for downtown, of course, and those are pretty high-end apartments. So, and we have very dilapidated properties as well. They're in very poor shape. When we were doing the energy efficiency audits and installations, I actually got one done at my home, and one of the installers was like, oh, so you're Kristel from MN Renewable Now. So you're the one that's been signing up all these people for energy efficiency audits. And I was like, yeah, that's me. And he's like, we've been really busy. And I said, good, that makes me happy. And he's like, you know what else has made me happy? He said, I have been doing this for a long time, and some of the homes that I've gone into are literally only like 10 years old. They do not need weather stripping on their doors. They do not need these updates. He's like, but the homes that I've been going into lately have needed it so bad that it finally made my job feel like it was worthwhile. And so I was so happy to hear that, because it made me feel so happy, because that was the whole point, was not just addressing this carbon footprint that North Minneapolis is putting out on a vast scale because of how inefficient our properties are, but also an equity issue. I don't know if anyone has lived in an older home in North Minneapolis before, but if anyone knows, most of the homes don't even have insulation in their exterior walls. And so if you don't have insulation in exterior walls, your heat is just going out of the home, which can cause your bill to go up twice as much And then obviously you're using twice as much energy. So we've got the lowest AMI, we've got the highest unemployment rate. So if we have all of those combined, what are the chances that any of these folks are going to have access to the education of even knowing about renewable energy, knowing how to access it, and then on top of that, being able to access it? I was talking to a friend of mine that was looking into getting solar panels on his home, and he said, yeah, it was going to cost me $30,000 and I didn't qualify, but my credit score was a 760 and I don't understand because it was my debt to income ratio. And he's like, but if they would just see, you know, like he was self-employed, and he's like, if they would have seen, like, you know, how my, you know, what I'm bringing in, but it didn't matter. And so when he told me that, and this was a white man, and I said, God, man, if he can't get solar panels on his home, who can? It's like, I can't even imagine. So this year we've been spending our time putting together a project called the Soul Star Project. And what that is we are looking to, or we are not looking to, we are actually doing it, to retrofit 24 rooftops with solar in North Minneapolis. The plan is to get this done by spring of next year. We've already started identifying the properties. We are now taking applications, pre-qualification applications for folks in North Minneapolis. And how we structured this is through a unique way of raising dollars through community crowdfunding and small investments. If anyone knows about like MNRES, MNRES is a space where folks can invest throughout the state of Minnesota. They can invest in certain projects that they believe in, and then they also can get a something back for it. So how we're doing this is folks will invest in the project and they will get about 2.5% back per year for till 6 years is over. And then once 6 years is over, we'll get the full tax credits back, and then we'll be able to pay back the investors within 6 years. And then we'll be able to deed the solar panels over to the property owners at the end of the 6 years. So really, all of the people would have to do is pay for a solar assessor. We want them to have some skin in the game. And so we identified a solar assessor who's actually from North Minneapolis. He is a Black man, and he will be doing the solar assessments. Very soon here, he'll start going out to the properties and doing the assessments. And then we also put this kind of a solar dream team together, if you will. And this took all year, actually, to try to identify these guys. We've got 2 residential contractors who are Black men from North Minneapolis, and then 3 solar installers that are Black men from North Minneapolis that work for other companies. And then we're going to do a training. We have a training coming up where we're going to train, do an OSHA training. We also have the city of Minneapolis going to do a training for our board. So our board is aware of everything that's going on and how to break things down as far as like solar math and all of the fun things that we need to know. And we're also connecting with a roofing company that's a North Minneapolis roofing company, because one of our partners said, well, we can teach a roofer how to install solar panels. That's easy, but we can't teach somebody to not be afraid of heights. So if we can access these roofing companies and train them how to install solar, they're not afraid to get up on a roof. And so we're doing it. We're connecting it that way as well. So kind of how it's set up is, this is kind of it's a confusing little map of how things are set up. And I want everybody to know how this is, structured. You know, we've got our tax equity investor and we got our lender. And then obviously we have an LLC because we're a nonprofit. There's no way that the nonprofit is going to be able to take advantage of tax credits. So we form an LLC. And then of course, we are, MN Renewable Now is the customer acquisition, homeowner outreach, pre-qualification. We're doing everything with the homeowners because we know the community. We know them, they know us, they trust us. And then of course, we were responsible for gathering all of this that you can see right here. And that's kind of how this thing is set up. It's kind of a crazy situation. We've got the Neighborhood Association on board. Northside Resident Redevelopment Council is a neighborhood association / CDC. It was a very creative way to take advantage of NRP funds that have been stuck in green programs since the 90s that just haven't been doing anything. And what better way to utilize those funds to help the community and the people that live in the neighborhood to get solar panels on their home. And so we're really, really proud of this. One of our, if you could see down there, one of our major investor obviously is Ralph Jacobson from IPS Solar. And I'm sure a lot of you guys on the call know who that is. He's the one that actually created this way to fund this project. He actually started it with the what reservation was that? I'm blanking now. If anyone knows, they can say it out loud if you want to.
Kristel, it's Red Lake.
Red Lake, thank you very much. So he did this with Red Lake, and now Red Lake is actually working really hard to put together their own public utility company. And actually, MN Renewable Now is thinking about, the reason why we're doing 24 rooftops at a time is because if we do 25, then we would have to register as a public utility company, which is crazy. And now we're thinking about maybe even, thinking about doing that, like in the near future. Like, why not? There's been a lot of talk around North Minneapolis of like, why don't we just like create our own little city within a city? So, that's big dreams. So, now I don't know if you guys remember in 2017, anyone remember that report that came out on racial inequality? So Minnesota came second in being one of the most the worst places for Black people to live in the country. And that came out in 2017. And so whenever I look at Minnesota and Black, I always think that's North Minneapolis. That's where I'm at. I mean, in some neighborhoods, we have the population is like 80%, in some neighborhoods, the AMI is 28,000 a year, I mean, when you think of that, that's just like, that's crazy. And so that's why we've had a little backlash, and we've had people that live up in 55412 be upset and go, well, why not 55412? Because the zip codes of North Minneapolis are 55411 and 55412. But we're focusing unapologetically focusing on 55411 because it is one of the most toughest neighborhoods. And our thing is if we can pull this off here, we can pull this off anywhere. And we want people to say, wow, they were able to pull this off. I want to be able to replicate that model where I live in, Nebraska or Missouri or wherever. We want, because the thing is like I said earlier, we really want our legislators to move, but in reality, we can't really, I mean, these targets of 2050 sound great, but we really need to be moving faster. And that's why that's why I came up with the name MN Renewable Now, because it's something that we should be really thinking about. This is an emergency. We need to be moving urgently as fast as possible. And there's a lot of people out here that are willing to invest in programs and projects like this that are able to. And using tools like MinVest is a great way because they're able to do a good deed. They're able to invest, but they're also able to get their money back and make a little money out of it too. So, yeah. So, but that's just a small piece. We're actually still crowdfunding. We're raising a lot of funds as much as we can from general people that just want to give and help out the project. Right now we have enough funding to be able to get half the project done. So we're moving forward regardless, and just hoping that people see that the work is getting done and it's being accomplished. And once they start seeing those panels go up on the roofs, then maybe they'll be like, you know what? They're not talking, they're not blowing steam. They're actually getting this work done. I want to help this out. I want to help this initiative out. So, another reason, North Minneapolis, I just want to throw some other facts out there. So the home ownership rate for North Minneapolis, and this was all in 2017, 21% for Black, and then 76% for whites. And then Black people are obviously 10 times more likely to end up in jail. And then if you look at the median income for Blacks and whites, and this is for the entire state of Minnesota, less than half Black people are bringing into their household. And then now you're looking at the unemployment rate for Minnesotans was 8.8% in 2017, and you know, currently, if you look at it now on the far right, it's not looking good. So, and that's obviously because of COVID. So we got so this is why we called the project, building racial equity through renewable energy. The reason why we're really pushing this in North Minneapolis is because it's not just an environmental issue, it's also an equity issue. The chances of, if you ask any solar installer, any company that's doing residential solar installations, if you ask them how many of your customers are Black, they're either going to say 0 or, oh yeah, I had one this year, one last year. But the reality is, it's just not happening. And we need to be able to help spike those numbers. And this also was this is also an educational issue as well. We hope that when these solar panels are going up, that this is going to spark conversation and questions, and when you see solar panels go up on the roof in a poor neighborhood on top of a Black family's house, and the entire crew is Black, and they're from North Minneapolis, I'm hoping that this inspires some young boy or some girl that, wow, I could do that too. What's solar? Oh, okay, that's how you power your house. Okay, wow, they're putting solar panels on a roof, and they look like me. Wow, I could do that. And so that's the hope and the plan. That it'll be a way to educate the community. It'll be a way to combat an economic equity issue, and then also, be able to lower the carbon footprint of North Minneapolis. We really want to make North Minneapolis a model for other Black communities in the entire country. Where, look, this Black community was able to figure out a way to retrofit solar panels on roofs in one of the poorest neighborhoods in the state. And, we're able to get it fully funded. How were they able to do that? And I want them to be able to see that that's something like that is possible, and it can be replicated across the country. So yeah, that's basically about it. Do you guys have any questions for me at all?
Yeah, Laura had a question as who your developer is.
Who the developer is? So we're working with different. So our residential contractor is Envirotech. And then we're also working with Solar Services Solutions. So they are, they're all within the community. And then
Is that JT?
yes, JT. Yes, you know JT. Okay, we got JT, and then we're also working with oh my God, I don't know why I'm having a Tron from he was with IPS Solar. And then we've got 3 solar installers that actually came up through IPS Solar that live literally down the street. I run into them at the Broadway Liquor Outlet every now and then. We actually cleaned up that building after it was destroyed by the riots.
Is it Keith Dent?
We're not working with Keith Dent on the project, but we also, we see them all the time in the neighborhood, and people know them. So that's what's really cool about it is having folks be able to go, oh, I know that guy, he lives on my corner, or, you know, that's my, you know, aunt's friend or whatever. He's on that roof putting solar up. And I, you know, the thing is like, because I actually, when I first reached out to them like a year ago about this, they've been texting me regularly about it. Like, hey, what's going on with the project? Hey, are we there yet? Hey, are we getting there yet? Because they're super excited about it because they're going to be able to work in their own neighborhood. You know, when you're doing like, it's got to be really exciting to be able to do that work right in your hood. So am I breaking up at all? Because my internet just said it was unstable.
Yeah, it kind of did a
Okay.
pause there, but we're back on track.
Okay, sorry about that. I hate this technology stuff.
We made sound effects for you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Any other questions?
Kristel, do a number of the homes have to also look at like putting up new shingles and stuff like that on their homes?
Yes. So it's funny because we were actually talking, and when I brought up the roofing company, we're actually meeting with the roofing company over this weekend, and it's a roofing company that is right here in North Minneapolis. Actually, it's in Old Highland in the 55411 zip code, and they are planning to do a philanthropic project around this. So for every 24 rooftops, they would like to be able to repair 1 roof. So if somebody's roof needs to be replaced, then they want to be able to replace that roof. And so how they plan to do it is put a certain percentage aside for each roof they do of what they make, and be able to put that towards the materials and to be able to pay the roofers on that project and pay them to replace a roof. So if we do run into a roof that needs to be replaced, that's the plan, is to be able to at least be able to have an answer for that one. In the future, I would love to be able to create a pool for folks that need a roof replaced, because that is a big issue in North Minneapolis. Actually, when I bought my home in North Minneapolis, I had to get my roof replaced the same year I bought it. So I know it's an issue, especially with the tornadoes that we've had recently in North Minneapolis as well. So, but that's a good question. Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that we've been talking about.
So I have a couple questions. Hi, Kristel.
Hi.
I'm Chris Berta. I'm with Minnesota Renewable Energy Society. So I'm thrilled to see you and meet you. You're terrific.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, did you say that the homes are undergoing energy efficient kinds of modifications prior to the solar going on their house? Did you say that?
Yes. So I'm glad that you asked that question, because we are recommending, and we can't force them to get energy efficiency audit updates and installations. However, we are taking into account for what their income is, because if their income is below 100,000, it's going to be under 100,000 a year, then they're definitely going to get the energy efficiency installations and audits. And then we're going to go one step further. There's a federal program called the WAP program that is, I don't know if it's and it rolled out yet, but it's about to roll out. And we actually met with them. And we're going to be partnering with them to make sure that our participants are getting the energy efficiency upgrades through that federal program. So they would be able to go even further from the typical weather stripping doors and air, all of that.
Exactly.
They'll be able to go even further and get the furnace and get the water heater and get the other things and insulation and things like that need to be replaced and updated.
Great. And then my other question was, what are you recommending in terms of the amount, the kilowatts you're putting on each of these houses? Is it whatever the house can handle, or is there a financial piece?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. So our minimum is 5 kilowatts. We want, they have to at least be able to fit 5 kilowatts on their roof, and up to about 10 kilowatts. We'd like to be able to fit on the roof.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the reason being, obviously, we want to be able to get as much tax credits back so we can pay back the investors. We want to be able to generate as much electricity to put back into the grid as possible. We want to get the most benefits for the property owner as well.
And you found 88 people who can put 10 kilowatts on their roof?
Well, for the Soul Star program, we have had over 60 properties respond to our, we put it out there. We got over 60 responses. And so we are reaching out to those 60 households right now. And once we reach out to them, we're going to actually do an assessment of the roofs, and the ones that are able to get the most kilowattage, those are the ones that are going to be bumped up to the top. But it's also going to be a combination. It's kind of a combination of income, combination of obviously race, and a combination of is your roof south-facing? How new is your roof? Can we do some repairs? Things like that. So I would like to be able to say, yeah, we're going to just pick somebody that can fit 10 kilowatts. No, not necessarily. It might be all 5 kilowatts because we want to be fair and we want to make sure that it's the most equitable choices.
How is it working? One more, you keep making more questions in my mind.
Yeah.
So when you're filling out those forms and you're saying you need to be Black, do you run into questions about how Black do you need to be? I mean, no, seriously.
We really aren't in the first round. We're not asking what their race is. We're asking them what's your address, and do you plan to live in your home for the next 7 years? We also ask them what their annual income is for the entire household.
Okay.
And then we ask them, is their roof, I believe is your roof over 10 years old? Those are our questions. And then we leave it very simple because we want to be able to just go ahead and we want to be able to go online and assess the roof online and go, okay, we can this one, no, not that one. And then if, let's say the 30 out of 65 are like, oh, these are prime roofs, then those are the first ones we're going to go out and assess.
Okay.
Then we'll start, prying in on what is your race, that information. We definitely want to be fair, and we want to be about what we say we're about, and we do want to focus on making sure that the people that are getting these solar panels are people of color, because like you said like you've seen in this slide that we have up, how many Black people actually own homes in North Minneapolis? The majority of the homeowners are not Black in this community. We have a very, very high rental population, and our community is very gentrified, and it's being more and more gentrified every day. The property values are going up. They're skyrocketing right now. And so we want to make sure that the few Black homeowners that we have here are going to be able to get the benefits of this program.
I'm asking partly because of our situation. Minnesota Renewable Energy Society has developed a program for a community solar garden.
Yeah.
For low income folks. But designing an application form is not an easy thing.
No.
that how do you identify those people without prying, without infringing on personal information, and it's
That's
not
true.
that easy to do.
It's not.
And I'm not even sure how our developer finally ended up identifying. Did anyone else say that? Barb, can you respond to that? How did we finally identify folks?
I think Doug knows that he found an organization in North Minneapolis that helped him. I don't know.
Nice. You know, one of the ways that, I'm sorry, one of the ways,
It's Kristel's organization.
Yeah.
oh yeah. So one of the ways that we've decided to kind of figure that one out is, you know, it's one of the easiest ways is, does your kids qualify? Do you have children in the home, and do they qualify for free or reduced lunches?
Yeah.
That's one way. There's another way is, are you on any government assistance at all? Medical assistance, SNAP program, do you receive WIC? Any of those government assistant programs are, if they qualify for something like that, chances are they are low income. And that's an easy way to do that. And then if they qualify for that, they can prove that in some way, shape, or form by just getting a letter from the school saying, oh, well, yeah, they qualify for free or reduced lunches.
Did you have a lawyer review your application form?
We do have a lawyer. We do have a lawyer that we are working with that is doing drafting all of our contracts. And our lawyer will definitely, when we finish that final application, right now we're on the pre-qual side. And that's a good question, Chris, because I am still trying to figure out how to do that one and be fair and not dig too deep. And honestly, Chris, when we come up with it with our lawyer, if you don't mind, I could get back to you, and I'd be willing to even share that application with you.
That would be great. I think that would be beautiful, because we're doing it again. We're coming up with another, am I right, folks? I mean, we're doing another couple of these solar gardens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Super cool.
Yep.
And also, if you're, you know, any work that you guys are doing with the community solar gardens, I don't know, what county are you working in right now with your community solar garden right now?
Doug and Mark can tell you.
The rural one that we're working on is Dodge County.
Okay.
But then we're hopefully coming back to Minneapolis, to Northeast Minneapolis, which would be Hennepin, of course.
Okay, cool. As long as, obviously, you know, as long as it's touching the Hennepin County borders, we're willing to do the engagement for you guys as well. We're really big on that. We want to, anytime that there's a community solar garden available that we can access, please let us know. We would love to be able to advertise that for.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Our garden is on the Impact Building in North Minneapolis.
I'm sorry?
Our garden is on the Impact Building in North Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah. Is the one in Camden neighborhood?
Yeah. Mark.
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah, so we did engagement for Greenway Solar, if that's what you're talking about. Yeah, so we did engagement around that. I think we were able to sign up like, I don't know, maybe 20 households for that one.
Great.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so, yeah, because when they reached out to us, they still had like 25 slots to fill. So we wanted to make sure we filled those 25 slots. So I think they still need a couple more. So that's a good reminder. I need to go call a couple people and force them to just do it. You need to do this. I'm actually one of those 22. So I'm actually a community solar recipient from the Greenway Solar array. So yeah.
Kristel, is the fact that you guys are in the Minneapolis green zone neighborhood, has that helped you?
Yes, big time. Because we're in an opportunity zone and because we're in a green zone, it's definitely a benefit for us to be able to get this work done. we have a meeting with the city every single week on this project. And we're kind of trying to wear them down so that we can start funding some of these projects so we can get them done. To be honest, like, I just don't, it's amazing some of the things that get funded by the city and in the county. And, you know, I just, on a very local level, you would think that a project like this could be funded by public dollars when it's going right back to the community. It's not, it's going directly back to the community. Like, the people that are receiving these solar panels are community members that pay the taxes for the city to run. So it just makes, you know, that's just the way my brain works on the whole thing. But, you know, we'll figure it out. And we also could use a little change of leadership in Minneapolis, to be honest. So but that's just my opinion. Any other questions? Cool. Well, like, really grateful that you guys were willing to listen to this project. And so our website is mnrenewablenow.org. You can see some of the work that we're doing on mnrenewablenow.org. And then we also are fundraising for the project. And our fundraiser is on Give Butter. If anyone's ever heard of Give Butter, but it's a way to raise crowd fund. And then that is, if you go to Give Butter, you can just type in Soul Star, and if you share it with your friends and share it with your network, that would be super cool. We want to be able to really just build up this project. Either way, we're moving forward no matter what, where we are at. Like I said, we've got half the project funded, so we're just going to keep moving forward and do everything we can to get 24 rooftops by spring. And yeah, and so hopefully we'll be able to pull it off, and then that would be able to put us in the place where we'd be able to do another 24. Our dream is 24 every 6 months.
That's great. You got a goal.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because the average block in North Minneapolis has 22 households. I know this because I door knock all the time and lit drop all the time. So 22 houses, the average number of homes on the block. And so it's almost like a block by block initiative. Hopefully you can just see it just spread across the whole city. And not just North Minneapolis, but the bridge, across the bridge.
So when you're, oh, go ahead.
When do you think you're going to have the second round of screening complete for the site selection?
So we want to be done. So it's mid-September right now. So we are hoping we get all of our applications, our pre-qualification applications, by the end of this month. We want to be assessing roofs in October, and we plan to be start putting solar on the very first roof within the month of October. Yeah. So we will be putting solar on people's homes this year. This year is when we're going to start. I don't know if we're obviously not going to get all 24 done before winter, but hey.
Are you familiar with Excel's timeline on these installs? They're not quite as aggressive as you might be.
Yeah, I know. That's okay, because, you know, my mom taught me that you just aim for the stars, you know, and then if some things come in the way, then that's fine. I'll still get to the stars. It'll happen.
Oh,
Kristel, just wanted to thank you so much for the presentation. We'll be putting it up on our YouTube site in the future, so you can use it as a reference for other things. And we've got a small token of appreciation we'll be getting to you. Solar powered telephone charger.
Wow. All right.
and then also,
I really need that because my phone is always dying. I think I'm at like 2% right now.
and then just for everybody's knowledge, next month I've got Dale Howie lined up to come and speak. gentleman who is a big property owner in Minneapolis and is putting solar on most of his buildings, has all kinds of sustainability items to share with people, and actually has a program where he supports people to spend some money getting an electric vehicle. So
Wow.
pretty interesting guy. So anyway, tune in next month and hear more. And again, thank you so much to everyone.